Welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy you liked the Ask for Help Spirit Guide video. I love those stories with the wow factor. The stories where I say, oh my gosh, how did that happen? Stick around to the end for a celebrity spirit guide surprise. Okay, let's go. Let's get started. For a period of time, I did quite a few readings for pro snowboarders. I really enjoyed their energy, of course, and the readings were fun for me. The first pro snowboarder I ever met was Pichel. She was, and still is, a fun-spirited girl who called me for a reading after meeting with my friend Jody. Jody was an artist that was designing artwork for Megan's signature snowboard. At the time, Jody was doing a painting of my daughter, Lee, who had recently passed. Megan asked Jody, hey, who's the girl in the painting? She not only explained the reason for the painting, but also told Megan that Lee's mother, that would be me, was a card reader. She called me immediately and we did a session. A few weeks later, Lee came to Megan in a dream. She and I have been friends ever since. Our friendship progressed and Megan got me involved with the Boarding for Breast Cancer Foundation. I became a coach for many of the 4-day retreats she headed up for the breast cancer survivors. The experience was unbelievably rewarding, and being able to meet and interact with incredibly brave women was life-changing. The seminars were not only healing, but they were filled with magic. Megan has created a support system for these women that lasts way beyond the 4 days. Megan called and asked if I would do a reading for a friend of hers. Her name was Lindsay. She was the girlfriend of Josh, a pro snowboarder. The boarding community had just gotten the devastating news that Josh had died in a freak accident. He had been in Spain doing a photo shoot in the Pyrenees Mountains when the accident occurred. At the beginning of the reading, Lindsay told me she had spoken to Josh on the phone the night before the accident. As we continued on, Josh came in loud and clear. I told Lindsay, he's here and he's got candy all around him. Lots of candy. Does he like candy? And she went, oh yeah. I also told her I saw him with a shopping cart. Lindsay started to laugh and told me a funny story about Josh. He'd gone into a store right after a holiday and saw a shopping cart filled with candy at a really reduced price. Josh bought the entire cart, pushed it home, brought it into the house, and dumped all the candy on the living room floor. No wonder he came into the reading with a shopping cart and a bunch of candy. Josh wanted to make sure that Lindsay would absolutely know that he was right there in the room next to her. Megan introduced me to her younger sister, Chrissy, who had just moved to Colorado. She was an absolutely adorable little blonde with real sparkle dust. Chrissy was in her mid-teens, and of course, we did a reading. As any young girl, she was looking for love. After learning many lessons about love and life, she met Joe. Joe immediately fell in love with Chrissy. He gave her plenty of space, time, not to mention being warm, loving, understanding, but most of all, Joe was consistent. It was the perfect combination. Everyone loved Joe. He was just the greatest guy. It was my great pleasure to have been able to officiate their wedding, which took place just outside Vail, Colorado, on June 11th, 2011. Chrissy and Joe enjoyed their life together. They were especially appreciative about being able to do the things they were most passionate about. Joe's passion was snowboarding, especially in the backcountry. In April 2013, Joe was the organizer of an event to celebrate backcountry snowboarding and also to raise money for the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. After the fundraising event in Dillon, Colorado, on Friday evening, Joe, along with a group of very experienced snowboarders and one excellent skier, planned to meet very early the next morning for a day in the backcountry near Loveland Pass. In addition to enjoying a day of boarding and skiing, they were also going to test out the latest avalanche survival gear. In the morning, right before Joe left their hotel room, he leaned down to kiss Chrissy goodbye. With her eyes closed, she wrapped her arms around Joe's neck and said, "I'm gonna miss you, babes." He answered back, "I'm gonna miss you more, sweetheart." Joe died that day with all but one of his friends in the deadliest avalanche in Colorado in 50 years. After Joe passed, Chrissy and I did several readings. He always showed up at the readings, but mostly just stood there looking at Chrissy with this wonderfully protective smile. She loved that Joe was there, but both Chrissy and I, we wanted bigger, better signs. We asked, and he did not disappoint. One day, while Chrissy was driving Joe's truck, a favorite song, one that was played at his memorial service, came through on her phone. That particular song had never been downloaded or saved to Chrissy's phone. A couple months later, after the phone sign, Chrissy was restless and felt lost. Of course, her energy was all over the place, and she was feeling very fragile. Chrissy thought a road trip might serve as a much-needed distraction and decided to drive to San Diego. On the way, she stopped at a gas station in Utah. She forgot to put the gas cap back in place. As she drove down the highway, the cap began banging against the car. She panicked, thinking something might be seriously wrong. Her insecurities intensified, and she started praying to Joe. Chrissy asked him to help her with her emotions and her fears. She took the next exit. The first thing she saw was a sign that said, "Welcome to the town of Joseph." A month later, Chrissy was in British Columbia visiting with Megan, her husband David, and their 2 kids. Hiking and being in the outdoors were the things that the sisters enjoyed most with their husbands. They were hiking the Chief in Squamish, which is known for being a very clean, well-maintained trail. While shimmying across a rock, Chrissy looked down and saw the sole of a shoe with a tag hanging on it. The tag said Joe. With tears in their eyes, Chrissy and Megs looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, he's right here with us." Over 5 years later, Chrissy found out she was pregnant. Chrissy could not believe it when the doctor told her her due date was March 25th, Joe's birthday. She knew at that moment that everything was going to be just fine. Chrissy had a beautiful baby boy. She named him Cassius Joseph, but calls him Cash. He loves watching snowboarders on TV, and whenever he sees a boarder, he says, "There's Joe." When Chrissy heard Cash say this for the first time, she was stunned. Chrissy asked Cash if she knew Joe, and he said without hesitation, "Yes." She then asked, "Where did you meet him?" Cash said, "Here, right here." I think we're going to call this next segment A Tale of Two Rings. I've enjoyed doing readings for Alma, Paul, and their daughter Laura for a number of years. As I remember, it was Laura who brought her parents to see me. They turned out to be a wonderfully great and open family. Paul and Alma lived on the western slope of Colorado and invited my husband Jack and me to spend several days with them. I did readings for everybody, all of their friends. Paul, Jack played golf, and we had a great time. Sadly, Paul passed away in January 2014. Just over a year after Paul's passing, Alma invited us over again. Only this time it was to do readings for a new club that she sadly was now a member. It was called the Widows Club. The first afternoon of the visit, I was doing nonstop readings. While taking a break, Alma asked me to come into her office. She had bought Paul this really cool massage chair before he passed, and she wanted me to sit in it while she made me a cup of tea. That really sounded great, so into the chair I went. I sat there with my eyes closed and really was enjoying the massage. For some reason, I opened up my eyes, looked down, and right by the cushion was something very shiny. I reached down, picked it up, and it was a gold wedding band. I quickly got up, went into the kitchen, and I asked, "Did someone lose something?" And Alma said, "No, nothing that I'm aware of." I held up the gold band, and she immediately took it out of my hand with tears in her eyes and held the ring to her heart. Paul had lost his wedding ring before he died. The entire family searched everywhere for that ring. Even their granddaughter, who had very small hands, reached down in all the cushions of the whole house, all the couches, even that chair, that very chair, and nothing. It was just gone. So, what was that? Me finding the ring. Paul definitely was involved from the other side. I truly think he put the ring in full view for me to find because he knew me, and he knew it would be fun for the family and everyone involved. Alma immediately called Laura. Her response was hilarious. She said, "The witch is in the house." Now, that was just a joke, and I'm not really a witch, don't claim to be, but I did enjoy the reference for just a minute. A year and a half after Paul's passing, Alma's friend Deb, who also lost her husband, had 2 tickets to an event and invited Alma. She told her they would probably not know anyone in the entire room. Alma had just bought a beautiful ring and thought it would be a great opportunity to show this off. She put it on, and instead of admiring it, she noticed her hands, and she was not liking what she saw. She felt her hands were too big, and here they are, filled with dark sunspots. She said to herself, "This ring will only bring attention to my hands. I shouldn't wear it." She slipped it off and said, "What would Paul say?" In her mind, she heard his words, "Oh, for heaven's sakes, Alma, there is nothing wrong with your hands. They are just fine. They look fine. Wear the ring with confidence." So she wore the ring. When Alma and Deb got to the event, they found a large table with 3 other couples, and they settled in. Drinks were being served and everyone was chatting. Unexpectedly, the gentleman straight across from Alma said, "I do not know why I am saying this. I would never say this to someone I just met, but you have the most beautiful hands I've ever seen." She said, "Well, thank you. I'm just so glad the lights are low in here." He replied, "No, I'm serious. You have beautiful hands." Shortly afterwards, everyone around the table introduced themselves. The name of the gentleman sitting across from Alma was Paul. Alma's Paul picked a Paul to reinforce a message he had already given. The next day, she freaked out and called her friend and said, "Oh my God, do you know the name was Paul? Did you? Oh my gosh." And she had, of course, thought about it, but it just reminds me of what I do when something happens. It happens and I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I have to process that now. Whoa. And then a couple days later, I go, oh my God, that's what came down. So I kind of like that it happened to her too. When I was sitting at the computer typing out my notes from Alma's notes, I felt this huge presence standing behind me. I said, "Jack, don't stand behind me when I'm trying to do this." I turned around. No one was there. I turned back to the computer, and the cursor was going crazy. It was going really fast, back and forth from one side to the other, one side to the other. Then it stopped. There was one word in the middle of the line, and it was Paul. Paul is active from the other side because people are listening and believing that he is there. Paul loves to play. Spirits are like us. They don't always want to play alone. Activate your belief system if you want, and it will work for you. I've been asked about my spirit guides many times in the past. Most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, they come in as lights, but not always. One of the most shocking times involved 3 men who showed up together, not once, but twice. I taught aerobics for many years, and you know what that's like. Lots of loud music, people jumping around, me on the microphone yelling out moves. In the middle of teaching a class, I noticed 3 guys. They came in with big smiles on their face. They acted like they knew me, and strangely, I felt like they actually did know me. I had many guys taking my class, so I thought they were there just to check out my program. As soon as I had a chance, I wanted to see their reaction, and so I looked up, and they just disappeared. They were gone. So I was kind of thinking, this is really weird. This must be spirit guides. So this is crazy, but I stood in the middle of the room as loud as I'm glad no one was around, but I said, "Hey, if you're here, come on, get in the car, I'm going to my massage, get in the car right now." And then I just started laughing and I said, "Whoa, I'm really glad no one's around to listen to me do that," but I was just joking. Well, I got in the car, driving to my appointment. I looked in my rear view mirror, that wonderful rear view mirror, and there were the 3 guys sitting in my back seat. Of course, the second that I saw them, they disappeared, just like they always do. But I got to my massage. I didn't say anything. I went in. Jolene finished my massage. And at the end, she goes, "Oh my God, it was so crowded in here. I mean, you walked in here with so many spirit guides. I could hardly move around the room to do the massage." Time went by. I didn't see him again, but I was having a really hard time. And I was laying in my bed with my eyes shut. I was full on crying and feeling my pain and feeling very sorry for myself. And finally, I said, "Oh, Linda, stop it. Walk your talk. Take what you get and move on. Quit whining." I opened up my eyes, and there they were again, my 3 guys. They were standing there laughing and giving me a thumbs up. Then, of course, just like always, they disappeared. Side note, have you ever seen the movie Hearts and Souls? Robert Downey Jr. and Elizabeth Shue. It's about spirit guides. Yes, it's an older movie. Now, don't you be like my youngest grandkid and ask me if it's in color. Yes, it is. I think you'll enjoy it. Give it a try. It's cute. When spirits come to visit, they get to choose how they look and what age they want to be seen at. Most of them seem to pick the time of their life that is most familiar or might have some message for the person who is at the reading. The spirit guide might even choose a time in their life that they felt they looked great, they were at the top of their game, and they were the happiest. That's the way they want to be seen. A woman came in for a session, and her favorite aunt came in during the reading. She had passed away at a very old age, but was very excited to be there, showing herself in her 30s with very dark hair. She had a beautiful blue dress on. I heard her say, "I don't care what people think. I loved it dark." I said, "Well, does that sound familiar to you?" She told me that her aunt had dyed her hair dark and everyone in the family hated it. I love this part. The young woman then picked up her purse, went into her wallet, and showed me a picture of her aunt wearing that beautiful blue dress and enjoying her very dark hair. I have only had 3 celebrity spirit guides come in. Now, I told you about the one, John Lennon was in the spirit guide video, and in the ghost video was a little message from Prince. And in this one, we have Einstein. So I'm really happy that I got to see the 3, but that's it. I would love to see Freddie Mercury from Queen. But if he would just do me a drive-by, I would be so happy. Or maybe we should call it a flyby. But most of the time, the ones that come in from me do not stay very long at all. They just have a quick message and gone. About 10 years ago, I was doing a reading for a woman and her daughters. She said to me, "I'm bringing in my husband. We talked him into it." Now, I'd never read for him. In fact, I had never met him, but I knew he was a scientist, and he had even worked many years with the space program. Now, that made me nervous. In my head, I went into my scripted speech that I give every guy that has been talked into coming in for a reading, or maybe even drug in, kicking and screaming. I always say, "Hey, let's just have an experience here. This is for fun and entertainment. It will make you more multifaceted. Life can be experienced in many ways. Just look at it as an offering at the smorgasbord of life. If you're in a room and someone says, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for a reading. You can say, oh yeah, I did that once. Just remember, I can't tell your future. I can only tell you the energy that's present that might affect your choices. If someone calls me up and says, ooh, I've heard you're a really good psychic, I say, no. I'm an intuitive with both feet on the ground, willing to help you manifest what you already know you want. I deal with what's in your way, not what you're going to get. You already know what you want. The day came and the gentleman arrived. I gave my little speech, but it was definitely not needed. He was open and respectful, both to me and the information given. If I remember right, he even took notes. He left, and I said to myself, well, that wasn't so scary. That was actually fun. It must have gone well for him, too. Not only did he come back a couple more times, he also brought a colleague. I'm going to call him Henry. They were working on a project together. It was an experience I will never forget. While taking advantage of what they had to offer, feeling the energy, and doing a reading for the two of them, Einstein dropped in to say hi. He had on a white shirt and just waved. I believe Einstein was assisting the guys from the other side. Now, during this period of time, Henry seemed to have a health problem. He always came in with oxygen, but we didn't talk about his health problem, and I didn't ask. In 2016, he passed away. A short time ago, for some unknown reason, I started thinking about Henry. Several days later, the original scientist gave me a call and wanted to do a session. It had almost been 10 years. We did a very long reading, which I enjoyed immensely. That night, while sleeping, I woke up suddenly. I felt like Henry was there, so I just laid quietly and tried to connect in with him. I wanted to be certain it was actually Henry. My husband, Jack, who never does anything like this, in a very loud voice says, yes, he's coming up the stairs now. Jack didn't even wake up. I was thinking, no way, I couldn't believe it. So what did Henry want? I have no idea, because I was so preoccupied with Jack and what just happened. I guess in my opinion, Henry just wanted to let us know that he was around and ready to play. My favorite Einstein quote: there are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you found these stories interesting. Upcoming videos are near-death experiences and my thoughts about how to manifest the things that you want in your life. You might want to subscribe.